My mom really wanted her grandchildren to know who she was and how much fun she was, so she put together about 2 years ago an outline of what she wanted for her funeral. She wanted certain people to come and tell certain stories, and these people were hand selected by her. So that's what you're about to see. We decided not to have people come and talk in person because we didn't want them to get emotional up in front of everyone. So we went to everyone's house and filmed them and their stories. Due to some of the stories we got from some of the teachers got a little out of hand, so this is the edited version, and we have an uncensored.
Earlier, Vicky and I have been together over 50 years. I remember the first date I had with her. I was 17. I was a senior in high school, and she was 15, and I guess she was a sophomore in high school. But anyway, a mutual friend arranged a double date with them and Vicky and myself, and I'd seen her maybe a few times before, and I always thought she sure is a pretty girl, so I agreed to it. And we went to a ball game in Carlisle, of all things, and I didn't know it at the time, but her dad thought he knew who this person was that she was going out with, and he had set up a signal that he was going to give her. If this is the person he thought I was, it would be the thumbs down and she couldn't go. So fortunately I passed the test and she went with me, and that was just the start of a lot of wonderful times. But Vicky and I, we loved each other dearly, but we didn't have a whole lot of interest in common. Like, I was more of an outdoor person, and she was more of an indoor person. So after we were married, I like to go camping. So I remember the first camping trip, we were going to go out west, and we had this tent, little canvas tent, and we were packing things in the car, and I was loading things in, and Vicky came out with an ironing board. What are we going to do with an ironing board? And she said, well, how are we going to press our clothes? When we were first married, we didn't have very much money. I mean, the church mouse was much better off than we were. But I remember when we had to go get a marriage license, and I didn't realize that you had to pay something for them. So I ended up borrowing $5 from Vicky to pay for the marriage.
My mom loved my kids very much. I remember when Lily was born, my mom was so excited to meet Lily, and she was in the waiting room waiting, and they waited for a long time for Lily to come. But after she was born, everybody came in the room to hold Lily, and the first person that I let hold Lily was my mom. And I patiently waited for her to hand Lily to the next person, and I waited some more, and then I waited a little bit more, and I finally had to basically pry Lily out of my mom's hands so that the other people in the room could hold her. And that was just the beginning of my mom's just adoring relationship with Lily. My mom we would always take, my mom and Lily we would all go to Walmart together. And I remember I would do my shopping, and Mom and Lily would walk around in the cart, and by the time I met up with them again, she would have 17 new bows in her hair, and she would have a handful of candy, a handful of marshmallows, and just her face would be covered in chocolate. My mom's answer to everything that was ever wrong with Lily or Payne was, I think they're hungry. And so she would always feed them everything. As Lily got older, she would describe my mom as her snuggle buddy. she spent a lot of her time snuggling with my mom on the couch, and that was what they did. And I know when me and Lily talked about that my mom wasn't going to be here, Lily always said, oh, well, who am I going to snuggle with then? That was just the definition of my mom to her. She loved her very much. When Payne was born, I remember my mom had Lily in the hospital. Well, while I was in the hospital, my mom had Lily for the night, and she came the next day to give me Lily after Payne was born, and Danny was in Vandalia getting some stuff and coming back to the hospital, but I was with my 15-month-old and my newborn, and I was feeling very overwhelmed and very emotional. And I remember while I was in the hospital, when my mom went to leave, she went downstairs and she ordered flowers to be sent up to my room with a note that just said how much she loved me, and I will always remember that because it was at a time that I was feeling so overwhelmed with these two brand new babies, and I didn't know what to do with them, and she just was there. She was there for me. She let me know that she was there for me. A story I remember about Payne and my mom is Payne is quite a wild child. He's always in a good mood, but he's very loud. He likes to scream a lot. That's his thing. He's a screamer. And my mom called and said she wanted to come visit the kids one day, and I felt so relieved because I thought, oh, okay, that will be so great. She's going to come down here, and I'm going to, my ears are going to get a little bit of a rest. Maybe she can calm him down for a little while and play with him, and I won't have to listen to his screaming anymore. But Mom had other plans. Mom came, and her and Payne played a screaming game together. So Payne would scream or roar really loud at my mom, and then my mom would roar really loud back at him, and he would laugh, and they did this forever. And now, not only did I have one screamer, but I had two, but they had such a good time, and Payne he just loved that she played with him like that, and he enjoyed it so much. She loved my kids so much, and a way I always describe my mom is she gave us all unconditional love, and that was the definition of who she was, and that's something that I want my kids always to know, that she always loved all of us unconditionally.
Bailey was Mom's first grandkid and the absolute apple of her eye. She often said that Bailey was the one that saved her life and found the cancer. She actually went with Bailey to the park with Bailey and Jack while Jason and I were visiting Grandma Wuehler in the hospital, who had pancreatic cancer. And while they were playing at the park, Bailey was getting into the car and Mom was putting her into the car seat, and Mom turned to wave to someone or something, and when Bailey closed the car door, it hit her in the side, and she had been going to get mammograms, but nothing had come up. When it hit her in the side, it actually caused swelling around the tumor, and that's how she found out she had breast cancer. So I think that created a close bond with Bailey that she didn't have with anyone else. Bailey also, she's an avid softball player, and every game she's played, she's wore a pink ribbon to support breast cancer and to remind herself to do her best at everything that she does. Another really good story I have about Bailey is when the cancer had spread, metastasized, we found out June 25th, 2.5 years ago, and Dad had already come out to Tucson, and I was having lunch with Dad and Jason, and we got a phone call from Mom. It was probably the only time I ever heard her actually break down and cry about cancer, and she was supposed to come out to see Bailey's All-Star game. It was going to be the first time our little softball player was going to pitch in the All-Star team, and I said, don't come out, we're going to come out to St. Louis. And she said, no, 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 no. I am coming out. Cancer has taken so many things from me. I am going to see my granddaughter pitch in the game. So, despite being pretty miserable, she came out and she sat. It was 107 degrees. We packed her feet and her waist and her hands in ice, and she had a umbrella that she held over her, but she sat through the entire game, and she saw Bailey pitch a really, really good game that day. So then there's Jack. Jack is the first grandson, really the first boy in the family. He's a little high-strung, but we love him, and my mom was always very, very good to him. She seemed to understand him sometimes when the rest of us didn't always understand him. When I was at the hospital with my grandfather and he was passing away, he was in his 80s, and my mom and I had asked him, is there any regrets that you have? And he said, absolutely not. I did everything I ever wanted to do, but I do feel bad that I'm the last person with the name Hildebrand. In my family, there's no more boys. I had 3 wonderful girls. I wouldn't trade them, but there's no more Hildebrands in our family. So after Jack was born, we named him Jack Hildebrand, so that at least for his lifetime there'll be another Hildebrand. And when we called to tell Mom, she just bawled and bawled and bawled. And I know she's always been very proud of his name. And Jack, I hope that you understand how much your name means and how much we all love you. Then there's Kellen. Kellen was the second boy. He was a little bit wild, and he had, at 2 years old, this crazy wild hair that just stood straight out, and people called it his Phyllis Dillard hair. They said that that's what it reminded them of. And Mom was so nervous because we hadn't seen her in probably a month or so, and her hair had started falling out from chemo, and she said, Kellen hasn't seen me with my hair falling out yet, and he doesn't remember the last time, so I'm really worried he's going to be scared of me. And that was a very big concern for her. And we showed up at the house, and Kellen walks in, and he stops in front of her, and he kind of stares at her for a minute, and I could see just the tears welling up in her eyes because she's like, oh, he's scared of me. And all of a sudden his face just lit up like it was Christmas or something, and he ran over and went right up to her face, and he said, oh, Grandma, you have crazy hair just like me. And it was, I actually think that he thought that she had cut her hair to look like him, and he thought it was the coolest thing in the world. So I know my mom really loved the babies. Kellen and Lily were the same age, so that was always very special to her.
I remember being on a cruise with Vicky and Denny, and the seas got pretty rough one night, and for entertainment, Vicky and I sat and watched these people that couldn't walk because it was so rough on the ship. We laughed at them, and that wasn't very nice, but we had a good time doing that. And I remember one time making grape jelly with her at my house, and we had so much grape jelly we didn't know what to do with it anymore. And that was fun. And I remember lots of fun times with Vicky. We did a lot of laughing and shopping, and we loved going to St. Charles to the little shops. Even though the streets were hard to walk on and everything, we would go into every shop. She had her favorite ones, and I had my favorite ones, and we really, really enjoyed that.
Well, I tell you what, what I really remember, as much as a lot of other things that were, I know they were fun, and I know they were kind of hard for you, but you really were kind of a leader to getting us from the carbon paper and the duplicating and the manual typewriters. You kind of started in the, I would say, kind of in the Stone Age maybe, in the business department, and you got us through mimeographing, and you got through keyboarding and key punching and all that kind of thing. You helped us in the guidance office because we transitioned too. I was kind of a foot dragger, admittedly. Didn't want to carry around all of these really printed things. I was still kind of paper and pencil. And but you convinced me, and you pushed me a bit beyond what I wanted to do, but it was good for me. And we had
I
fun.
remember your mom and her long hair. Do you remember her long hair? It went past her waist in the back, and it was just straight as it could be, you know. It was pretty. And but that's the first thing I remember about her. And then I had to teach her how to use a copy machine. She was always a friendly person that everybody liked, but she was also assertive. And she was matter of fact, and she didn't beat around the bush ever. I've never known that to happen. And she just told things like they were, and that's what I liked about her. I liked people like that. And that's Vicky Wuehler to St. Charles Community College for special training, just her and I, to learn how to do this and that in technology. And she drove her sports car. And the first time she pulled up, she pulls up with the top down, and we're on our way to St. Louis. She had a cap on. I can always remember that. And somehow her ponytail or whatever stuck out of the back. She was okay, but I had nothing on. And as thin as my hair is, it went straight up in the air, and there was no way to get a comb through it when we got there. And we went between trucks. I mean, if there was 4 lanes, she was flying between those trucks, and you know, we were going to get there. So yeah, she can give you some scares in the car.
Yeah, we had lots of fun in high school, and of course, Vicky, when she met Danny, that was the love of her life. I mean, didn't go with anybody else. She was, oh, it was really kind of cute. They were just. But when we were kids, I remember with Dad, anytime he'd get in the bathroom, the 3 of us would stand outside the door and keep saying, "You about done, Dad?" And then he'd act like he was put out, and he'd come out of the bathroom. But he didn't bother him any, Billy. Vicky was a very popular girl. She had lots of friends. But she always thought she was ugly, but she wasn't. She was a beautiful girl. And I kind of envied her because she was so petite, and I was big.
Did she play any instruments or anything?
She played a trombone.
Was she good at it?
When Vicki and I were negotiating the first contract at the high school, the teacher's negotiator, Dave Sneddon, suggested she bat her eyes at the federal mediator. He had a crush on Vicki. Yeah, Denny never knew. She kind of giggled about it. We all knew she wasn't going to. I remember going to the baby shower for Christy. Vicky, I think, was sitting next to Kathy Allen, and she was very, very worried that Christy's neck was too long. Yeah, and she had a 5-minute conversation with Kathy Allen about how long Christy's neck was. She loved Applebee's. We got to Applebee's lots of times together. She loved their cream spinach. Let's see what else. I remember going to Vicky's house in Kirkland Heights, and being offered dove that Denny had shot. Yeah. Let's see, I wrote down some things that I wanted to mention. The first time I saw Vicky, she came into the teacher's lounge at the high school. She had on the most adorable little sundress and very petite, carrying a big load of papers to grade. So those are some of my memories of Vicky.
I'm here. I'll call Judy. You were always there for me, but we always had to call Judy, and the three of us could solve it. So I know now I'll call Judy, and you'll be on my shoulder. But promise me you're not going to have 1 foot on my shoulder and 1 foot on hers and expect us to walk so you don't fall. Love you.
Hi, Vic. Well, let me see. I think I remember the first day you came to school for an interview. And from that day on, you were good. You were good in the classroom. You were good for the kids. And my daughter the other day told me a story that there were some girls that were circulating some stories on the internet about how they enjoyed you and enjoyed your class and felt like you were a wonderful teacher. And of course, I knew that all along. I think I knew that from day one. And but there was a certain spunkiness, I think, that you had, that you conveyed to kids and people around you. It was fun. It was fun.
This is written by Teresa Ward, Mom's college roommate. Vicky and I met in the fall of 1973 when I took a job at the University Museum Centennial office on campus at Carbondale SIU. She was my boss and we hit it off immediately. One day a new girl arrived and added immensely to the entertainment. Her name was Barbara Crump. All three of us were responsible for editing the manuscripts of various university authors before they went to print. The breakup of the monotony of the above. We would talk, eat graham crackers, low calorie, and play practical jokes on our co-workers. One Halloween we placed a coiled rubber snake beside the coffee pot in the kitchen and waited. Barb hates snakes. She screamed and gave us a piece of her mind before the day was over. Vicky and I laughed our butts off. Both Vicky and Barb were my photographic guinea pigs. I was taking a class in beginning photography and they willingly posed for me. Vicky inspired me to apply for a journalism scholarship. I felt I had no chance at it. She encouraged me, and to my surprise, I got it. When Barb received her PhD in 1974, Vicky and I threw a surprise party for her at her boyfriend's apartment. Together with the assistance of the liquor store employee on the phone, we tapped a keg of beer. It didn't go well. Beer started shooting everywhere. Somehow we got it stopped, but the sticky wet floors were quite a job to clean up before the party. It was a great party. Vicky and Denny became our good friends. Both were supposed to stand up at our rather impromptu wedding. The blood tests' expiration dates were running out, so hence the rush. Vicky made it to the courthouse, but Denny could not find his keys. So Vicky did it herself, and Denny signed the certificate after the fact. They took us to dinner at Pinky's, and we dined on chicken gizzards and beer. Later, at their home, they threw rice at us and took our picture holding the wedding certificate in the tub and in their bed. Over their bed was a large photograph of a very grumpy Denny and Vicky. They gave us that photograph. Fast forward to marriage 2, and they are now friends with my second husband, Steve. We still had the photograph. It has now been returned to its rightful owners, though. We still don't know why they were frowning. In 2000, Vicky and Denny came to visit our home in Wildwood, Missouri. They were very late. Eventually, they came tooling in with a brand new burnt orange Miata convertible. They were late because they stopped to buy the car on the way. I guess it followed them home. Vicky loved it.
Well, I knew Vicky before I ever started teaching at KC, because remember that basset hound that you had many years ago?
You recorded this?
Mortimer?
Yes, I do.
We answered an ad in the paper, free dog. And we went and got it because we wanted a dog for the kids, and 2 months later, we asked your mom if she'd take it back, and she said no.
No returns.
You're
That's a
stuck
bad
with
dog.
it.
That was a bad dog.
That's funny.
Yeah, it wouldn't be so bad, but it was knocking the kids over. Oh, my.
Oh, that is funny. Well, I said I feel very fortunate because I knew Vicky through FBLA since I worked with PBL, and then I was fortunate that she started working on Thursday nights in the lab, and of course she always supported PBL a lot because she was an FBLA advisor, but she was like our biggest candy bar buyer.
She absolutely
Yes,
was.
we always made sure we had it stocked on Thursday nights because she would, buy a lot of candy bars. She was our best buyer, yes.
Until I came in one day and she said, well, I went to the doctor yesterday. I said, what did they tell you? She said, what's the worst thing somebody like me could have? What's the worst thing that could happen to me? I said, what? And she's like, I have diabetes. And there was like 1,000
bars
candy bars
everywhere.
stashed. I mean, like every drawer you opened up, there'd be
She
like
didn't hide
fun-sized
them.
candy bars. And it's like, oh no, Vicky. We're going to have to clean out all that candy.
So
all the candy
then we
bars.
said, then it was a rule, no candy in the lab on Thursday nights. We can't tempt her, so.
Except for her sugar-free candy.
Yes,
we
we
always
did have-
knew
we
there
did
would
have
be
sugar-free, yes,
candy
yes,
there.
yes.
Left it alone.
Yeah. And then I was fortunate because when I started at SWIC and we needed some teachers, I'm like, well, I know somebody. So I thought it was kind of cool that we got to teach together at Kaskaskia and at Southwestern Illinois College. And one thing about Vicky is that she is a true business teacher. And I was reading some of the, reading things that people have said about Vicky in the past too, and they talk about how, Neely that I used to work with she was one of her students, and I used to work with her at SWIC, and she talked about what a wonderful teacher Vicky was, and why she's the reason that she's in what she's doing, and the programming, and Vicky didn't just teach one thing, it was programming and keyboarding, whatever, but I gave her some advanced classes, and she, you give her the book, and by God, it doesn't matter what it is, she learns it, she teaches it. And that's a true business teacher, and that was one of the things that it didn't matter what, Vicky would teach anything because she knew she could, and she was talented and really good, really good.
All three of my kids had her for an instructor, and I am sub 4, and she always told me, she said, she would have to remind me, she would say, don't give them a break, keep them busy, they may not like what you're doing, but be hard on them because it'll be easier for me when I come back. So, by golly, they probably didn't like me as a sub, but I wanted to make it easy on her. And you know what, my 3 kids, she was an instructor first and then a friend. And she always said, I'm hard the first day, and I'm an instructor, and then I'll be their friend.
Right.
And she was.
Right. Well, all the kids, think about all the kids that she touched through FBLA too.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that to me is that added benefit, that added bonus that, so many teachers, I don't have the time or I don't want to do that. But she knew that was something that, that the students needed, something that was really beneficial.
Except for the floats, she didn't like those.
Well, I can see that. I can see that. And I'm not sure she was always fond of the state leadership conference either. Not always, but it's all good.
Well, she was an easygoing person. I remember, Kim, when you and
Don't
Jennifer...
make her mad, though.
No.
Not make her mad.
When you and Jennifer, my daughter, were in Carbondale together, and Jennifer would call, problems, and I'd tell Vicky, they're having not between you two, but one of you would be having, they'll get through it. She was never upset about it. She was just always cool, calm, and collected, and you got through it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think that we always try to stay together. Like, I think I've been at SWIC now 14 years, and still once or twice a year, we still get together, and, we would go to, it was Tequila's for a while, and then we went to Sergio's, and I was telling both of them one of my favorite nights is the night we were at Tequila's, and they're cleaning the place up, they're putting the chairs on the table, we're still sitting there having a good time, and we kind of closed that place down. And it was a weeknight, we had to go to work. But we enjoyed that.
She was not a lover of Mexican food, though,
No,
was
she
she?
was
No.
not. No, she was not. No.
No.
She did like to eat, though. She liked to go out to
Oh,
eat.
yeah.
She did.
Yep.
And then we would always get together at IBEA. There was a group of us that worked together at KC or we're FBLA advisors or whatever, and we would always get together at the Illinois Business Education Association conference and go out to eat. Many times it was Mexican too. But we always had a good time. work hard, play hard. Definitely.
She, when she first started getting her nails done, this is totally random. When she first started getting her nails done, she was doing them herself for a while, then she like went to the salon and had them done. And she said, and I sat down and told them, if you hurt me, I will not pay you. And I was like, can you do that? And she's like, I told them and they didn't hurt me, so I paid her. And I was like, I am gonna try that. I didn't know that was an option. I just thought you had to pay them no matter what. That story about Vicky cracks me up because that's who she was.
Yep,
If you hurt me, I'm not going to pay you.
Yep.
Well, alrighty then.
Yeah, but I think we were a good team at KC. We were a good team. We were. Students couldn't get by with anything when we were all there.
No. And she was my right-hand man many times. You know, if she thought you deserved something, didn't get it, she'd go to bat for you till you got it. So she's...
And you said one time she even gave up her hours.
Yeah, she did. I lost my hours one semester. I won't go into too much, but she said, that's not fair, LaDonna. And I said, well, it happened. I'm not going to be teaching this semester. She said, well, I'm giving up my hours so you can have them. They'll have to offer them to you. And I said, don't do that. Yeah, I'm going to. And she did. She gave up her hours and she said, you got to take them now. And I'm like, I just felt so guilty. But I took them and I said, I'll do you a favor someday. But that's what I mean. She would go to bat for you. She'd go the whole 9 yards.
Definitely.
She had a wonderful outlook. Her smile was so warm, and she had such an infectious laugh.
Her laugh,
What
yeah.
a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, really, what a warrior.
Yeah, she did have a great laugh. It's like once she started, everybody started laughing. You couldn't not, you know.
She could laugh and still be so serious.
Yeah, she could. Yeah.
She always had a nice car, except the one that she took to school for some reason. She always took this old, dilapidated one. I never understood why. I'd try to talk to her into, why don't you bring the Camaro? No, I don't want to bring that. So we're driving along, and the furnace in the car, the heater, it's about 120 degrees in there. I mean, it was so hot, and there's static on the radio, and we're talking and laughing, and it's raining, and all of a sudden, the windshield wiper flies off. Just flew off the car. I said, that's it. Now on the Camaro. Another thing I remember about our relationship is that we would always laugh about Denny's dog. That dog was the meanest, stinkiest dog, and Denny just loved that dog, and he would take it everywhere with him. And Vic and I just could never understand, what was why did he even took the dog to school and left him in the truck. She was happy. What's her name, Gussie? Or no?
Sadie.
Sadie, oh, whew. And you'd always figure she'd be sitting there and growling at you, and you'd think, oh, she's going to bite me. On Facebook, show what kind of a teacher she was, because that's the purest test, not some administrator coming in, sitting in your class once a semester or a year, but just what her former students thought of her. And there's just such glowing comments about what a patient and kind teacher she was. And she really did care about her students, probably as much as anybody that I've ever been colleagues with. She really did care about them. And that's it.
My main purpose to go there that day was just simply to pray for her, because I've had a lot of good results from prayer, and I thought it might help her. And I don't know that it did, but I kind of hope that it did. But anyway, after we had prayed and later on the others were gathered around the kitchen table talking, your mom was sitting at the kitchen table and she was talking about the angel, and I was talking to your dad. And I really didn't hear what they were talking about at the moment, but finally it dawned on me they were talking about somebody that had come with me.
Yeah, that's what she said.
Yeah, she said there had been a man that came with me. And when I heard that, I started listening to what they were talking about. And your dad said, well, he was alone, there's no one with him. She said, oh yes, there was somebody with him. He had a man that came in with him. And so at that point, I looked over at your mother, it occurred to me then that she had seen an angel. And later on, she described the angel to me, and he was I suppose, an average-looking person, but he was dressed all in white in a robe, had long white hair. And she said he came in, followed me in, and stopped and looked at her. And I don't know, did she say that she heard anything? Did he say anything to her? I didn't know, couldn't recall whether she said that or not. So anyway, but who she described couldn't be anything else except an angel. And her memory of it was so clear that I was convinced that she actually saw what she said she saw. And then your dad became convinced too at that point. And everybody else too, I guess.
Oh, yeah.
Including, yeah. But anyway, it was a marvelous experience. I was really thrilled. And it was a really, really enjoyable experience. I'm done now.